Okay, I've possibly found my new favorite keyboard for my iPad Pro. Today we are going to look at the Typecase Edge Pro keyboard. And I have been using this keyboard for the last few weeks with my M5 iPad Pro. And I want to talk about that experience because this keyboard really surprised me. This is one of the most revolutionary keyboards I have used for my iPad Pro. So like you, I use my iPad Pro as a laptop replacement quite often. And whenever I'm using my iPad Pro and I'm using it in like a business environment, a business setting, wanting to do a business task on hand, I prefer to have my iPad with a keyboard. And I often walk around the office, walk around my home office with my iPad in hand. And I prefer to have a keyboard that is really thin, has great lighting, and also has great durability at the same time. And looking at this Typecase keyboard, I am using the black color. And a couple of things I noticed right away was how thin this keyboard is. So I've used a lot of different aftermarket keyboards, and the majority of them do add extra bulk. And yes, the extra bulk a lot of times can be used as a benefit in terms of durability. But if I want to use my iPad in a more business situation or in a more traveling situation, I would prefer to have a keyboard that is a lot thinner. And yes, this keyboard is definitely thin, but it's also still made out of aluminum. So you get that beautiful soft touch metal whenever you're using this keyboard. And one thing I noticed with other brands is that sometimes they skip out on the touchpad or the keyboard. And I'm telling you right now that this touchpad and keyboard rivals what a MacBook feels like. The touchpad feels really clicky, which I like. And it actually gives me a tactile response. Really like how this clicks here. I love the short and tactile feeling you get whenever you press these keys. And I love how clicky and how responsive the touchpad feels whenever you're using it. I've used different touchpads in the past where either the click was not clicky enough or it just felt a little too mushy and you don't really know whenever you click, and that I do not have that problem at all with this Typecase keyboard. And one of the most innovative features I have seen on this keyboard that I really haven't seen on any other iPad keyboard ever is the per key RGB lighting. So there are 10 different lighting modes, and it's actually very easy to cycle through each RGB lighting setting, but I just love how intuitive, how easy, how bright, and how amazing this RGB lighting looks. You know how some products like the RGB lighting feels cheap and kind of like an afterthought? I feel like this keyboard mastered the professionalism and the usability of RGBing something. I think that they just did a really good job here. It doesn't look tacky at all, which, like I said, I can see other products doing that with their RGB products. So whether I'm using this keyboard at night or I'm using it in like dark office environment, I love this RGB lighting. And to change all of the settings, it's very easy. You don't have to hold down the function key or the command key or anything like that. You have a dedicated button to change the brightness and to change the RGB setting on this keyboard. I love that. I'll play around and use different setups with the RGB settings. And that's one of the benefits of having up to 10 different RGB settings is you can customize this to be exactly how you want it. And while we're talking about the keyboard layout is amazing on this. I've used this keyboard side by side with the Magic Keyboard and other aftermarket competitors. And to me, this is the closest you can get to like a Magic Keyboard in terms of how well the keyboard feels whenever you are using it. And I think it's amazing that the keyboard actually reminds me of Apple's Magic Keyboard, but you get those major benefits of that new lighting. And of course, you get all of the function keys at the top. So you get the volume adjustments, you get the brightness adjustments, you get that keyboard adjustment button, you get your media playback buttons like previous, resume, pause, and then also fast forward. And you get that microphone button as well. So me personally, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything using this keyboard versus the competitors, which is something I love. And one other thing about the RGB features on this keyboard, the RGB keyboard gets so bright, you can actually use this and see the lighting in well-lit areas. Like right now I'm in my office at the office and the keyboard is on right now and I have the highest brightness for the RGB setting and it looks amazing. It is bright and it just looks really good. Now this keyboard is a Bluetooth keyboard. So you attach your iPad Pro to the keyboard using the built-in magnets on your iPad. And it has this built-in USB-C port on the right of the keyboard that you use to charge up this keyboard. And I've been using this for the last few weeks and I have not had to charge this keyboard once even while using all of the different keyboard brightness settings and all of the different LED features and all of that. And I really like how you have a charging indicator as well whenever you plug in your USB-C cable. So yeah, it's amazing that this keyboard is really thin and that the key travel is really good and you have RGB lighting, but how is it whenever you're using the Bluetooth feature? How is it whenever you're using this keyboard with your iPad? And I just want to say that with the touchpad, I prefer this type of touchpad, the way it feels and the haptic abilities of this touchpad, because whenever you click, it is very clicky, which is something I actually like because it tells me like, hey, I'm actually clicking on something. But whenever you are scrolling through the operating system, whenever you're using gestures within iPad OS, whenever you're swiping around, it is very smooth. And I feel like I don't miss swipe at all whenever I use this touchpad, which is a really good thing. And the same thing goes for the keys as well. There is no lag or any slowdowns whenever I'm using this keyboard versus Magic Keyboard, for example. And one thing I want to mention about the Bluetooth, so whenever you put your iPad inside of this keyboard case and you close the lid, the keyboard itself will turn off the LEDs and the keyboard will go into like a sleep state. But as soon as you open up the keyboard, and I mean as soon as you open it, your iPad reconnects to Bluetooth. So if I close my iPad and reopen it, you'll see the LEDs light up and you'll see how fast this iPad reconnects to this keyboard. So I'll say it takes less than a second. By the time you start opening your iPad and when you can start using the keyboard, it's like half a second. So by the time I fully have the lid all the way open, the keyboard is pretty much fully lit up and ready to be used. So there's no delay there either. So yeah, do I recommend this keyboard for your iPad? Absolutely yes. This is one of my favorite keyboards I have ever used for my iPad Pro. The lighting really is revolutionary, and the rest of the keyboard, with how light this keyboard feels, with how thin it feels in your hand, with how fast the Bluetooth is with connecting and the product going to sleep, and the great battery life. There's not another product on the market that I know of that is this good. And I think Typecase did a really good job with this product. So thank you, Typecase, for partnering with me and also sending out this keyboard for me to check out. And I will make sure to leave a link down below for you all to check this out. I think that this is definitely going to be my EDC, my go-to keyboard when it comes to my M5 iPad Pro. But yeah, let me know down below if you have an iPad, an iPad Pro, an iPad Air, what products do you recommend using? Are you planning to check out this new RGB thin beast of a keyboard? Or do you have something else that you are currently using? Let me know down below. But yeah, I appreciate all of you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.